different person is going to be transcribing this, someone who's not here right now. So maybe you could say your names once again so that person can identify the name with the voice.
My name is Steve.
My name is Mark. I pretty much sound like that.
I would be Matt.
And I'm Dan.
Okay. He was very impressed by last night's show. Was the crowd reaction more or less the same as what you get in the States, or was it a different animal?
Yeah,
it's a little bit different.
It's not.
How's that?
I guess we're whacking it amongst you.
In some respects, it's the same, but it's a little different. It's like I think that
There's more singing.
Yeah.
Last night it seemed like.
And in between songs, there'll be the applause, and then it'll be kind of quiet.
Oh, I see. So it dies down.
Yeah, it dies down.
Yeah. Silent.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
a little
think
bit
it's just,
different.
just because of the Japanese culture.
Maybe.
Passing judgment on
No.
That's just that my
the
impression.
rock and roll cultural anthropologist.
Wow, they're polite. They want to be quiet to listen to what I have to say.
Which amounted to what do we call it?
The last time you guys came here, I guess it was sort of a one-shot gig at a very, very small hole-in-the-wall type of place.
Yeah, it was very tiny.
But this time around, it's like 4 shows, sold out, screaming audience. What's as accounted for?
Well, last time we were here, it was 2 shows sold out at a very tiny hole-in-the-wall place in Tokyo, at least, and we played Nagoya and Osaka, too,
Oh, I see.
which is what we're also doing this time.
Right.
We're only doing 1 show in each of those cities.
But the difference is still pretty striking.
Yeah, you can breathe
What's-
in the venue that we're at.
I mean, it's just like,
I'm sure
this is more comfortable, more together. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure being here the first time helped quite a bit. We seemed like we did a lot of press last time we were here.
Was it right?
yeah.
So you laid the groundwork for the
Yeah.
success.
Kind of,
I
yeah.
guess so.
But I mean, what else has happened? I mean, you guys signed with a major label since that time as well. So
Yeah.
distributional situations kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got all the money of the very kind professionals at Warner Brothers behind us now.
So somebody's actually promoting these gigs.
Yeah.
I have a guy with a sandwich board. There's a little bit more about the difference between life on Sub Pop and life on Warner. What are the biggest differences?
Well, Sub Pop people have been like friends of at least some of ours since like 1983, before the label was even in existence. You could always, if you wanted to talk to them, just walk downtown and take the elevator to the 11th floor and
No, to the 10th floor.
and then take the stairs up to the 11th floor. And then, talk to him face to face about something. That doesn't necessarily mean you'd get a straight answer, but you could at least, physically be there, whereas like Warner Brothers is basically based in Los Angeles, and
We have our people speak to them.
yeah, we have our, we have Bob over there, who's our manager. He used to be the guy who used to lose our guitars right before we got to the airport.
It takes more phone calls
Yeah.
to accomplish something, I guess.
That probably takes the same number of phone calls to actually accomplish something, but it's all different people instead of like calling Bruce 20 times to get something done.
Yeah, you have to call like 20 different people once.
Yeah.
Well, also, it's like, I mean, as far as like the bonuses about Warner's stuff, is the distribution's like a lot better, and it's easier to get your records released like worldwide as opposed to
To get them
Well, Sub Pop
domestically.
has pretty good distribution now, but at the
Yeah.
time,
But Warner does have a larger back catalog to raid.
yes.
Yes.
How about when it came time to actually recording them? Were they a little more freer with the budget there, or does that matter?
Well, we got like more money, but
We would have gotten something similar from Sub Pop,
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
Considering how much the last Love Battery recordings cost.
Yes. So, not much changed like that. I mean, there was still, we just went in, recorded it, and handed it to them.
So it worked out the way it would have worked on Sub Pop anyway.
Yeah.
But you're reaping the distributional benefits.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't translate for him right now because we're sort of limited time-wise, and this gets translated later. And yeah, that's why it's not like you're going to be misinterpreted.
We trust you.
We wouldn't know anyway.
You can put in whatever you want.
What was the actual reason for leaving Sub Pop in favor of Wardism?
Well, Sub Pop, when we left them, they were in really disorganized and bad financial straits. So, and since they were friends of ours, and like we were getting fairly frustrated with them, we figured we should leave before, you know, we hate each other, and you know, or it gets worse than that. You know, they go out of business, they owe us all the money that we, you know, earned. So we left before it got worse.
We had no idea that
Nirvana would come along.
It would just be so much better.
And we didn't really leave for the sake of going to a bigger and better label. We were actually looked at going to just Caroline, which is independent label too, that was distributing Sub Pop, and they seemed a lot more uptight than like a lot of the major labels we talked to. And it was just the fact that since we were looking for another label, there were some majors interested, and we just thought, well, we might as well have a look at them, and it ended up being to our liking.
In what way was Caroline uptight?
Just like side projects.
They wouldn't let us. They said we couldn't do any.
They expected us to like tour like 9 months of the year, kind of like Smashing Pumpkins, and we're like, well, you know, we don't do that. You know, we tour and we want, you know, put out recorons.
And they told us we should sweeten up our guitars when we record.
Really?
Yeah,
did he say that?
Oh no, that was a Chrysalis guy.
They were definitely more uptight. Now,
they're
the funny thing is though, now that Sub Pop just put in like a $12 million suit against Caroline Records because Caroline had been ripping them off for the last 2 years.
So now we're glad that we didn't go. Caroline. Yeah, it was just.
And Warner's pretty much, you know, gave us
free reign.
Free reign for us, you know.
Yeah, they seem. I mean,
yeah. I mean, you know, you never have complete freedom to do anything you want, really. But
so that you're about as close now as
I mean, I mean,
was there any sort of feedback at all though, like, you know, do something with this track or move this around?
No,
nothing.
There was none. We get a lot more feedback about like videos and things like that. You know. So
which all cost more than recording of the whole album.
Yeah.
So there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Selling your records, are you guys very keen on that, intent on that, or is sales just something you think will sort of pick up as you?
We sell more records than we ever thought we would.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
So we don't like make a conscious effort to record a record that we think is
the kids will buy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the reason that question was asked is because a lot of bands will just say, we just want to sell enough records to break even.
Right.
Whereas other bands will say, no, we knew we had to do this and that, and that's why we did this song, and that's why we performed this gig.
Well, we operate real cheaply, so it was like no problem for us to break even.
You know?
We're not like, getting tour support and using a big bus. The record cost us like $15,000 to record.
Is that right?
That's like $5,000 less than the cheapest video we did for it.
That's bad.
That's less money than most these record company bashes, in the Christmas party.
Yeah.
So we don't have that total pressure.
We're pretty much. I mean, we've been doing this for a certain number of years, so we're pretty self-sufficient on the road. We always have been. It's not like we're a new band that's really trying hard to act like we're making money, so we're not traveling in a bus.
So I mean, as long as the CDs sell moderately, you're happy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone told any of us, 3 or 4 years ago that we were going to sell, over 100,000 records. We were like, yeah, sure, guy.
I don't think any of us really pay any attention. Actually, I couldn't tell you how many records we've sold. It's just kind of a question that we don't really ask. I mean,
Well, I asked
we
when
can,
I was down in LA last time.
just try to keep up on it, just to make sure that
It's like 130, 140, something like that.
just so we.
But we really don't have any idea of like our back catalog with how many that's sold exactly, do we?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, what is it?
I haven't asked them for a long time. But we get like,
No, yeah.
shows how much. You can get a computer printout of that from Sub Pop anytime. Yeah.
Yeah, they tend to audit that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But see, I thought that was another like thing with being on an indie. Basically, the band is the last person to get paid on an indie.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else will be paid before. Like, if there's no money left, well, the band. Sorry, guys. So at least they're as far as like accounting for things early on, they had no idea where their records were going. They had some pretty weird distribution deals in Europe and stuff. So
It was pretty dodgy.
yeah, so we just wanted a bit better accounting.
Yeah.
Something that we could be sure of.
we're pretty sure that a label like Warner Brothers has to keep up on their accounting, because they're a pretty major corporation.
Yeah.
If they were as disorganized as Sub Pop, they probably would never have lasted as long as they have.
A safe assumption.
Yeah.
Sub Pop's pretty organized.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, at the time that we left.
Although in their more disorganized days, they were putting out better bands, I think.
What's that?
They just had more rockin' bands on the label when they're more disorganized. So they're, I don't know, maybe they're like, this could be second guessing them, but they might be signing more commercially viable acts to
think
kind of
so.
keep themselves afloat or whatever.
I guess some of them have bad music taste.
I think that's probably true.
I don't know, you guys probably don't follow the charts very much, but I guess, what is it, the Porno for Pyros, Primus, cracking the top 10, I guess, debuting the top 10.
In the regular charts?
In the regular charts. And, of course, Nirvana's chart success a year ago, whatever. It seems to be a day and age in which alternative bands are doing quite well. You guys see yourself in the top 10?
Well, that's probably why we sold over 100,000. Whereas, like, 4 years ago, if you would have said, I mean, it was unfeasible for a band as, like, as anyone that was, like, underground at all to, like, sell that much.
Yeah. It's a little trickle down.
I think it's just.
I don't see us ever having that kind of success. That's never been a goal or something that we thought was feasible. But then again, a lot of other things we've done, we never thought was feasible either.
Yeah.
Do you think those other bands are maybe more radio friendly, or they have more sort of pop style?
Yeah.
More so than you guys.
And
And also, I think Pornos and Pyros does have a pretty big legacy with
Larry Farrell.
Yeah, what's his name?
And the audience too, I think, has changed their tastes a little bit, or they seem to accept
Music with a lot of notes.
yeah, or just stuff that
accepted.
was considered alternative 4 or 5 years ago is now like mainstream.
Yeah.
I think obviously people must like it because they're buying the records. I think that had something to do with it. People just kind of, I think, got tired of
Bands that just didn't seem real.
right.
Probably. I mean, like,
Or it's just a big fad.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it is a big fad.
Could be like this year's big fad is like bands that seem more real than bands like CNC Music Factory.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get bands like Stone Temple Pilots, I believe it is, or that's
Yeah.
I think like they're going to number 1, I think.
Yeah.
But see, well, you guys are not exactly that out of place among that sort
Yeah,
of.
but see, a lot of those bands have a more polished sound. A lot.
They definitely spent more than we did in the recording.
Just overall like slick sounding.
It's never been something we've liked that much.
Yeah, and we're at the total other end of the spectrum.
A little too
More
much.
stripped down raw, and it's like I don't really see us being like that acceptable like a lot of people that like those bands. So.
The fact that we're as popular as we are now is probably,
Because
of the
huge
fact,
popularity.
because of those other bands is huge popularity. But I don't think we'll never get as popular as those guys. Or at least I don't expect to. But then again, we've never expected
確かに
this very much to begin with either.
練習はあるんだけれども、彼らの場合はもっとバッドハニーに比べれば洗練されたことになっているし、おそらくレコーディングというのも、そのメジャーシステムを信じtime is kind of on your side though, because you get a younger generation of kids now, even like elementary school, and they grow up listening to, they start listening to pop. The first pop music they listen to is like Nirvana, Stone Temple Pilots, now maybe Primus or whatever. So I mean, they're sort of being tailored to eventually graduate onto Mudhoney. So I would imagine there's sort of potential for major breakthrough success.
It's hard to say. I mean, stranger things have happened, I guess.
That also...
Look, I don't have the time to wait for those kids to grow up.
That could be when we're...
You're going to move on to the solo career. Vegas.
Just old age.
Yeah, that'd be great if a generation of kids grew up buying our back catalog and we could just sit around and reap the benefits of the records we put out in the past 5 years.
Well, you figure the sixth graders are going to be working at McDonald's in another 4 or 5 years. They'll be spending their hard
Extra spending.
It's already gotten to the point where there's pretty young kids coming to our shows, as opposed because we used to, when we first started out and did our first tours, it'd be people our age, and but now we'll do shows and there'll be like kids there that were
wider spectrum
born
of
in like
ages.
78.
It blows us away.
70, you have kids born in the 80s maybe. They're like 13 years old if they're born in 1980.
Yeah. We've met quite a few young kids that were 14, 13,
and stoned.
Yeah,
we got them really drunk.
We can't have what it is. That kid at the grunge fest?
That's good. Talking to you guys to step back and look at yourself and what you're a part of, I guess. But some people have been tossing around the expression of Lollapalooza generation because of the sort of surge of so-called alternative bands. Do you see kindred spirits within that movement at all? Bands you would liken yourself to? Or?
There's a lot of people that obviously come from similar musical backgrounds and stuff. Sure, Well, a lot of people used to be in hardcore bands or whatever in the early to mid '80s and stuff.
Ice Cube.
So yeah, sure,
I mean, that's a pretty diverse group of people, actually, if you think about it. Like, if it goes from Ice Cube to Susie and the Banshees to Dinosaur Jr. And that's several different backgrounds and generations.
Yeah, but I mean the roots seem to go back to the same thing. I mean, early 70s metal, or maybe a proto garage rock or the MC5, and maybe in the case of the rappers, I mean, gosh, who knows what?
Funkadelic.
Yeah,
maybe.
They used samples for Funkadelic.
Slide.
I mean, you got to trace it back, so maybe your influences tend to be overlap.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And look at the way all the bands are lumped together, within the Lollapalooza tour. I mean, it's almost harkens back to the '60s when you would get a Sly Stone appearing on the same stage with the Steve Miller Band. So I mean, maybe it's just a generation away from that.
That'd be cool. I mean, just diversity is a good thing, I think.
How about your own taste? Are your taste diverse? Or?
No, I only like Discharge.
I mean, we all have similar tastes in certain things, and drastic, different tastes in other stuff.
There's common ground,
But
amongst us.
Individually,
There's a lot of things that are-
individually too, I think. I think individually we have pretty diverse tastes. Like, just depends on what kind of mood you're in. And you know, I mean, to look at like one of our record collections, you know, there's a pretty diverse range just in one of our collections. You know,
All the way from Dinosaur to Babes in Toyland.
You listen to them all.
Got them all covered.
Yeah. What were the key influences that actually inspired you to want to start a band?
For this band, it was, you know, we'd all been in bands before. Me and Mark had been in bands together and stuff, but I think
Probably like
You know,
the
we-
initial three might have been
There was like Blue Cheer and the Stooges were like big
and
ones.
Neil Young, probably,
Wait, Stooges, Neil Young,
and Blue Cheer,
and then
Blue
punk
Cheer.
rock, and
and then you know like
and whatever
punk
we've been
rock in
doing.
general.
punk rock, like starting in the '60s. You know, the whole just like little tiny garage bands, and like through '80s hardcore.
Kind of a abstract question here, but comparing the musicals, the music that inspired you to get into this against your own music, what are the key differences? Like, you talked about stuff from the '60s, or
Yeah. Well, it comes from now.
Yeah.
that's the
And
biggest one.
it's us being a filter of ineptitude.
I mean, like, and we've never like just gone after one particular thing that we've liked, you know.
yeah,
Like, you know, say if we really like '60s garage shit. It's not like we tried to be a
Right,
'60s
right.
garage band.
it all
or
kind of gets
something.
mixed around,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
digested. And,
Yeah, just mixed it all up.
Uh-huh.
Put it through the old Mudhoney filter. The blender.
The big stew.
I think we're kind of limited as to what we can play too. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Oh,
if we did want to sound
beginning
like
to-
another band, we probably couldn't do it. So we're kind of stuck with what we got.
Limitations. Was there ever a time when you did just copy stuff?
Yeah.
Really?
Like did cover songs and stuff.
Yeah. Like,
Oh yeah.
What kind of covers did you do early in
Like,
the
Or not early on.
Just not.
Let's not say
band
let's
in
not say the
particular,
band, just
but,
yourself, like when you first started.
anything that I
never
play.
I've never played in a cover band.
Uh-huh. But I mean,
I think Matt, you probably do more cover songs. than
Yeah,
us.
just because I was in this band called the Melvins, and we lived in a small town, and there wasn't anything to do but practice, basically. So we practiced just about every day, you know. And after a while, it's like, you know, you get kind of tired of playing your own songs all the time and writing your own songs. So it's like it's just fun to learn cover songs. And we did a big range of stuff, but we covered like a lot of Black Sabbath and
Kiss.
Kiss.
Those are the big highlights.
Those are the big highlights. But like even earlier than that, I remember like doing a lot of like Who and Kings covers and stuff.
anything live and with an attitude, I guess.
Yeah. Anything that was simple enough for us to play. Anything that was three chords.
whereas like my first band, we couldn't even imagine how another song was written, so we were limited to only songs that we wrote. Jump around.
Hold on. No, it was a little bit hard to grasp the gist of the question, but he's comparing like your music or your approach to like the punk approach that maybe like influenced you when you were younger, like whereas it was more of a matter. It used to be a matter of like expressing anger or letting it all hang out. It seems like your music is more of the word he uses is like there's a sense of resignation, like accepting your position.
Have we given up?
I guess
There's plenty of things you gotta accept.
You said you
I
listen.
guess I'm resigned to being who I am.
Aren't we all?
I mean, there's always things that are going to bug you, but I don't know if you can change it.
You said you like listened to hardcore for a while, or you actually
Oh, yeah,
you were
yeah.
actually in hardcore.
Yeah,
bands.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, kinda.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it was part of that whole.
Yeah.
It wasn't like as
Only hardcore.
yeah. It wasn't like it was a band that was like more like inspired by like equal parts Minor Threat, Void, and Flipper. So it wasn't like a down the line hardcore band. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't see any of those influences.
No, but I mean that's what we thought.
Right.
That's like, so it wasn't like it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, play as fast as you can, and playing bar chords because we could
end up with a.
It was more like just
1, 2, 3, 4.
Go. And hope we all end at the same time, kind of thing. But sometimes it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, go, and I mean it wasn't just like. But it had a lot of
Play them some more, Mark.
Oh, the glory days.
Did you think you outgrew that? Why did you stop that?
It just
You
sort
can't
of,
just like. I mean, I'm amazed that people can still like be totally into hardcore
or just one
or
type.
that one thing. It's like it's too narrow. I mean,
You
find
just,
other things you like.
yeah.
The longer we're around, the more things we discover that we like.
Does anybody still do hardcore?
Yeah, there's bands carrying the torch.
The Suffocated.
Royal Crux.
From the
Royal Crux.
Moral Crux. Are they still together?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty. There's
Really?
thousands.
Poison
of
Idea,
hardcore
but
bands.
those just broke up. I'd consider them.
Who?
Poison Idea.
They're more punk rock. At times crossover metal stuff too.
Yeah,
Strictly hardcore.
but it's more
But yeah.
something that you don't really hear much these days anymore.
Yeah.
It's more popular, I'd say, in the early 80s.
I don't hear any of it anymore these days because I try not to.
But there's definitely bands that are, that are.
I saw the Suffocated.
Formula
and I
1, 2,
enjoyed
3, 4
them.
hardcore.
They had a big kick.
I think that was what the question was about in part there, sort of the youthful attitude of hardcore versus what you're doing now, which is obviously more of a
None of the
natural-
people in the Suffocated are very youthful.
Well,
I see. But I mean, it seems like hardcore is like like a teenage kind of thing.
Right.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
At least like what I consider like hardcore was like I guess because I was 16 and like all the bands I listened to seemed to be about the same age. At the time.
But how does your music change with age? Do you are you improving at your craft with each song you write?
Well,
I don't know.
First, rheumatism sets in.
And the Heartbreaker Sunrise.
We just know a lot more music that we like. Like there's different things that we try to bring into it.
So you think it becomes more diverse?
Well, actually, probably kind of more watered down and less to the point.
More watered down.
Maybe, well,
It's, I don't know. I mean, we don't sound that much different from when Mudhoney started, really.
No. We're better at playing together than we were when we started.
We're tighter.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just because we've been a band for 5 years. 5.5 years.
We're making excuses for being tighter. Well, hey,
Sorry.
Anybody would naturally
become.
Since we think we're tighter.
Yeah. You might not have been able to tell that last night.
That last night.
One last question before we take our pictures here.
Okay.
Wants to know the names of like younger bands or even older bands that you sort of your eye on, and why you've tended to notice these bands.
Like,
I guess the up and coming
In Seattle?
bands we should know
Or
about.
anywhere?
It doesn't necessarily be in Seattle.
well, there's like the post-Pussy Galore bands, Royal Trucks and John Spencer Blues Explosion.
Why are they post?
Because they both had members in Pussy Galore.
Pussy Galore was
A band from New York.
They made it over here.
Yeah, actually, they
Like 86 or something like that.
Now, Pussy Galore came over here like
Or 87?
89 or 88, because like
Oh yeah,
they came there and like
we were together at that point.
yeah, the Tad band like joined them when they got back from and went on tour with them. So
Clawhammer, really cool band from LA.
Also, the other part of the question was why these bands? I mean, why do you?
we just like them, I guess.
They're cool.
They're doing cool
Yeah.
things.
I mean, I don't really analyze why I like a band. You know, it's like if I hear them and I go, "Wow, this sounds cool," you know, and that's as far as
It clicks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to sit around and like analyze, well, why
that's our
I like
job.
this band. It's like,
There's a bunch of small bands in Seattle
that are really cool.
Pretty cool. Some of them, like, so small they play to like 20 people, kind of things.
That'll change for Kent 3.
Yeah. There's a lot of bands, out there. And it's not like we listen to them all and like them, but there's plenty of little shitty bands, little shitty garage bands that I think are cool.
Name off some examples.
Well, the Seattle list?
No. We always talk about Seattle. We talk about the...
I'm trying to think of other... I like the Palace Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
That was a new
heard
band
them,
that I thought was cool.
Yeah, he was asking what if there is any one element that sort of links all these Seattle bands. What do you think it is? Is there any sort of
Location. That's
that acute observation.
Well, that's the only thing that I could come up with, because a lot of the Seattle bands that people lump together are like, I don't think Pearl Jam sounds like Nirvana, or either one of those two sounds like Soundgarden, or but they're all lumped together as like.
One thing that all these bands pretty much have in common is that it's usually a guitar, bass, drums, vocals band. I mean, it just
Other than that,
they're all like pretty much live rock and roll bands.
Right. And then you trace them all, the main bands, back to like the hardcore scene in Seattle.
Yeah.
They like to crank it up. I mean, they all
and we
generally they're
pretty much know each other.
Yeah, we all know each other and have been in other bands with different people or whatever. I mean, it was fairly small scene, but
you'd see the same 25 or 50 people
at every show.
That's
totally different now.
So it's like you eventually get to know everyone.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's not. I don't really think there's a lot.
There's a shared history, but I don't think there's any kind of sounds that are.
Why Seattle though? Why did everybody sort of converge in Seattle? Why not?
If everyone,
I don't know.
Back in that probably is happening just about any town. It's just like usually it's just forgotten and ignored.
the main thing that really took, why it got, like what it is right now is probably like because of Sub Pop.
Yeah.
When they first started out,
they were the first, like label in town to, like tap into like bands like us and put out their records and.
But they totally made it seem like it was a local thing, like Sub Pop puts out Seattle bands, and they hype the shit out of it.
And they had a great, they were really great at, like advertising.
Using the media.
And so it's like,
Before that, what kind of might have helped bring these bands into being and maybe give them a sort of semi-sense of uniqueness was just isolation of Seattle compared to, like, not that many bands actually toured through Seattle.
It's a long drive to get there. And you're a small band.
And like bands like in more major metropolitan centers seem to have like more of a communication network between each other.
Right.
So like bands in DC and bands in LA, or like Detroit, were like a lot tighter than like any band in Seattle.
Seattle was kind of stuck up there.
I see.
Like if you're coming from the East Coast, the closest place is Minneapolis, which is 35 hour drive.
And like San Francisco to the south.
Yeah.
Like 14, 17 hours.
There's Portland, but
but that was pretty much nothing either. Nothing was really
and
happening there.
Vancouver. So
And a lot of bands made it to Vancouver and never came to Seattle either. Like a lot of the English, like first generation of bands, could get to Canada working papers or whatever a lot easier than the U.S. So like a lot of them would just skip.
Is it right?
Yeah, like or they'd only play like L.A., New York, and Vancouver or something.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, first time Nick Cave came through, played in Vancouver.
Yeah.
All right. I guess we better get our photos. Jean-Luc is going to be mad at us. Ready?
okay, I got a big camera.
You've drunk a lot of water today.
That's gonna flush the system out.
I feel the
Yeah.